Hello and welcome to English for Everyone, where we practice real-life American English. Today we're going to learn to avoid some important mistakes, so let's get started. First, this is not correct.
First of all, native speakers use idioms all the time, naturally. So if you want to be able to understand them, then you must learn idioms.
If you want to be able to understand them, we cannot say if you wants. We have to say if you want. If you want to be able to understand them, this is correct. We say wants after he wants and she wants. But if you want, not if you wants. If you want to be able to understand them. Slower, if you want to be able to understand them. Example, you need to learn idioms. If you want to be able to understand idioms, you need to learn them. Let's practice. If you want to understand idioms, do you need to learn them? That's right. If you want to be able to understand them, you need to learn them. This is also not correct.
If you learn to use idioms as you speak, you will end up sounding more like the native speakers. And that means you will sound more naturally.
You will end up sounding like the native speakers? The native speakers? We're not talking about specific native speakers. There's no specific group of native speakers, so we cannot use the article the. We cannot say the native speakers. You're talking about them in general, so no the, no article, just native speakers. So it's correct to say you will end up sounding like native speakers, not the native speakers. Let's hear that clip again.
If you learn to use idioms as you speak, you will end up sounding more like the native speakers. And that means you will sound more naturally.
And that means you will sound more naturally? We cannot say sound more naturally. Sound is a linking verb. We cannot use an adverb like naturally. We have to say natural. You will sound more natural. So let's look at the difference. If I use a regular verb like speak, I say he speaks naturally. But if I use a linking verb like sound, I cannot use naturally. I have to say natural. It sounds more natural. There are different types of verbs. So example, he speaks more clearly. With speak, I use a regular adverb. He speaks more clearly. And it sounds more natural. Let's practice. Does he speak more clearly? That's right, he speaks more clearly. And does it sound more natural? That's right, it sounds more natural. I cannot say it sounds more naturally. No, it sounds more natural. This is also not correct.
To cut corners means to do something quickly and cheaply in a way that you are sacrificing quality. You just want to get the work done. You don't care about the quality. You just want to get over with it. That is cutting corners.
I cannot say you just want to get over with it. Get over with it? We cannot use the expression in this way. We say get it over with. Not get over with it, but get it over with. Get it over with. Pronunciation, get it. Get it over with. We hear the T in get is a fast D, get it. And the T in it is a fast D because it's between vowels. Get it, get it, get it, get it over with. Not get over with it, but get it over with. And this expression means to put it in the past. Get it over with. And keep watching until the end of this video to practice more with this great expression. This is also not correct.
Yeah, I remember I was walking with my flip-flops going up towards the main road and my slide fell off. The first step I took, I stepped into one of those thorns.
I cannot say I stepped into one of those thorns. I cannot use into. I have to say on. I stepped on one of those thorns. This is a thorn. And you don't step into the thorn, you step on the thorn. And it hurts. It hurts when you step on a thorn. Let's practice. Does it hurt when you step on a thorn? That's right, it hurts when you step on a thorn. Not step into a thorn, but step on a thorn. We have to use on. This is also not correct.
I really want to make tres leches or 3 milks. It's a really popular dessert that's delicious. I made it one time. I'm going to ask ChatGPT for a recipe on how I can make tres leches or 3 milks.
Make tres leches or 3 milks? We cannot say 3 milks. Milk is not countable. It would be 3 kinds of milk, but not 3 milks. So let's talk about this. What is tres leches? It's a cake. And we don't call it tres leches, we call it tres leches cake. Can you call it 3 milk cake? Well, according to the grammar rules, you can, but we don't. We don't call it 3 milk cake. We use the Spanish name and we call it tres leches cake, or tres leches cake, depending on your pronunciation. So this is the cake. This is a tres leches cake. Not a 3 milks, not a 3 milks cake, and not a 3 milk cake. It's a tres leches cake. If you want to explain what it is, you can say, oh, it's made up of 3 different kinds of milk. But it's called a tres leches cake. Let's practice. Have you ever tried tres leches cake? It's really good. You should try it. It's made up of 3 different kinds of milk. And it has fruit on top, usually. This is also not correct.
This tree is dead. You could see there's no leaves and no life on it, but it's really nice to get back to nature sometimes because this cow is laying on the road. And same with these calves. And these calves are standing. How you doing, boys?
I cannot say leaves, and I cannot say calves. There's no word leaves, and there's no word calves. It's 1 leaf and 2 leaves, or 1 calf and 2 calves. Let's talk about calf. This is 1 calf. It's the back part of your lower leg. This is your calf, or you have 2 calves. Not calves, but calves. The L is silent, and we pronounce the V sound with vibration, plus the Z sound like zebra. Together, calves. You have 2 calves. And these are calves too. You have 1 calf and 2 calves. They're baby cows. Same word, 2 different meanings. So we have these words where we change the F to a V and add ES. Keep watching to practice more. First, this is not correct.
My shoes that you wear on your feet is outside, so let's go get them.
My shoes that you wear on your feet is outside? We cannot say this. The most important thing is the verb. I cannot say is. I'm talking about shoes. There are more than 1. Shoes are, not shoes is. So my shoes that you wear on your feet, let's change that. My shoes that I wear on my feet are outside. Remember, you cannot use is, you have to say are. So it's correct to say my shoes that I wear on my feet are outside. Or I can say the shoes. The shoes that you wear on your feet are outside. This is also correct. So let's talk about his shoes. His shoes that he wears on his feet are outside. Let's practice. Where are his shoes? That's right, his shoes are outside. Let's talk about his shoes. Are these his shoes that he wears on his feet? That's right, we're talking about the shoes that he wears on his feet. They're outside. This is also not correct.
But look at this. This is lemons. This is called weeds, but all this is weeds. Weeds and grass together. This is red flowers.
I cannot say this is lemons. And I cannot say this is called weeds. All this is weeds. This is red flowers. I cannot say this is when I have plural nouns. I have to say these are. I can say these are lemons. These are called weeds. All these are weeds. And these are red flowers. I cannot say this is because I'm using plural nouns in the plural form. Let's practice. What are these? Are these lemons? That's right, these are lemons. Pronunciation. Make sure you make the long E sound like green beans. These. Plus the Z sound like in zebra and zipper. Z with a voice. These are. These are lemons. And what are these? Are these called weeds? That's right, these are called weeds. And I can say, all these are weeds. Let's practice. Are all these weeds? That's right, all these are weeds. And what are these? Are these red flowers? That's right, these are red flowers. This is also not correct.
This It's called a leaf. A leaf. Trees have leaves.
Trees have leaves? Leaves? We cannot say leaves. The singular form is leaf, but the plural form is not leaves, it's leaves. We use the letter V and pronounce it v, plus the S making a Z sound like in zebra. Leaves. One leaf with the F sound with no voice. One leaf and two leaves. I cannot say leaves. The word is leaves. So example, trees have leaves. That's true. Most trees have leaves. Some have needles, but most trees have leaves. Let's practice. Do most trees have leaves? That's right. Most trees have leaves. So remember these plurals. One leaf, two leaves. One knife, two knives. Again, with the V sound plus the Z sound like in zebra. Knives. One wife, two wives. One wolf and two wolves. These are just a few examples of this pattern. First, this is not correct.
What mistakes do most English learners make? I would say they waste time on things that kills motivation, like grammar drills.
I cannot say they waste time on things that kills motivation. If I say things, I cannot say kills. I cannot put an S on kill, because things is a plural. I have to say kill. I can say they waste time on things that kill motivation, but not kills. I have to use a simple verb here, kill. So he's saying if students spend a lot of time in class learning English that way, that they waste time on things that kill motivation. Maybe it's true. Let's practice. Do they waste time on things that kill motivation? Sure, maybe they waste time on things that kill motivation. Not kills, but kill. This is also not correct.
And I'm 22 years old now, so that was also a question people asking. I'm 22.
I cannot say that was a question people asking. I need a verb. I need the verb to be. I can say were. That was a question that people were asking. Or I can use have been. That was a question people have been asking. But I cannot say that was also a question that people asking. In the present, that is a question that people are asking. In the past, that was a question people were asking. So example, people were asking this question. So I can say that was a question people were asking. Let's practice. Was that a question people were asking? That's right. That was a question people were asking. This is also not correct.
I lived in Canada since I was 4, so I lived in Canada for 18 years.
I lived in Canada since I was 4. I lived is an example of simple past, and I cannot use since with simple past. If I change the verb to present perfect, well, then it works. You can say I have or I've lived in Canada since I was 4. This is correct, but not I lived in Canada since I was 4. I cannot use since with simple past. So the example is he has or he's lived in Canada since he was 4. Let's practice. Has he lived in Canada since he was 4? That's right, he's lived in Canada since he was 4. Or I can say he has been living. He has been living in Canada since he was 4. He has, contraction, he's been. He's been living in Canada since he was 4. Let's practice. Has he been living in Canada since he was 4? That's right, he's been living in Canada since he was 4.
I lived in Canada since I was 4, so I lived in Canada for 18 years.
So I lived in Canada for 18 years? Wait a minute, he lived in Canada for 18 years and then he moved somewhere else? Or does he still live in Canada? Let's watch another clip.
So I didn't leave Canada, I'm just traveling here in South America, and my family is from here in Ecuador. So I just came to travel and visit family. So I didn't leave Canada, I'm just traveling here in Ecuador.
So he still lives in Canada. So we cannot say, I lived in Canada for 18 years, because he still lives there. We have to use present perfect. We have to say he has lived, or he's lived in Canada for 18 years. Or I can say he has been living in Canada for 18 years, but not he lived, or I lived. Let's practice. Has he lived in Canada for 18 years? That's right, he's lived in Canada for 18 years. Has he been living in Canada for 18 years? That's right, he's been living in Canada for 18 years. For example, my wife, Lisa. I can say she lived in Ukraine for 23 years because she doesn't live there anymore. She moved to the US when she was 23. So I could say in the past she lived in Ukraine for 23 years because she doesn't live there anymore. Let's practice. Did she live in Ukraine for 23 years? That's right, she lived in Ukraine for 23 years. Can I say she lived in the US since she was 23? No, I cannot use since in simple past. I have to say she has. She has lived in the US since she was 23. Remember, don't use since with simple past. Let's practice. Has she lived in the US since she was 23? That's right, she's lived in the US since she was 23. This is also not correct.
For me, the hardest part for speaking a language has got to be getting the confidence to speak.
I cannot say the hardest part for speaking a language. I cannot use for. I have to use of. It's correct to say the hardest part of speaking a language. I cannot use for in this situation. So it's an interesting question. What's the hardest part of speaking a language? You tell me. Give me your opinion. Let me know in the comments. What do you think is the hardest part of speaking a language? This is also not correct.
It's still very new to me, and it does make me nervous just recording because I'm afraid what's other people going to think and all this.
I cannot say I'm worried what's other people going to think. What's other people going to think? First, I can't say what's other people. People is a plural. I have to say are. What are other people going to think? This is a direct question. This is correct. What are other people going to think? But if you say I'm worried, you have to move the verb. I'm worried what other people are going to think. Pronunciation, what other people are going to think. Altogether, I'm worried what other people are going to think. Other people are going to think. So we don't hear are, we hear what other people are going to think. I'm worried what other people are going to think. I cannot say I'm worried what's other people going to think. Use are and move the are. I'm worried what other people are going to think. Example, he's very self-conscious. We say he's self-conscious because he's worried what other people are going to think. He's worried what other people are going to think about him. He's self-conscious. Let's practice. Is he self-conscious? That's right, he's self-conscious. Is he worried about what other people are going to think? That's right, he's worried about what other people are going to think. That's what it means to be self-conscious. This is also not correct.
Next question is, where do you want to travel next? I really want to go back to Asia and travel the countries I haven't been.
I cannot say I really want to go back to Asia and travel the other countries I haven't been. We have to put to at the end and say the countries I haven't been to. So it's correct to say, I want to go back to Asia and travel the countries I haven't been to. I have to put to at the end. Example, he wants to go back to Asia and travel the countries he hasn't been to. Let's practice. Does he want to go back to Asia and travel the countries he hasn't been to? That's right, he wants to go back to Asia and travel the countries he hasn't been to. This is also not correct.
So I've been to Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Hong Kong.
I cannot pronounce the country Singapore. It's not Singapore, it's Singapore. The NG makes a sound in your nose. Sing, like when you sing a song. Together, Singapore. Not Singapore, but Singapore. Singapore is a country in Asia. Let's hear another one.
But I still want to go to Philippines, Indonesia.
Go to Philippines? We use the article the when we talk about the country Philippines. It's a special country because it's a series of islands. We say the Philippines. So I cannot say I want to go to Philippines. We say I want to go to the Philippines. So example, he wants to go to Asia. He wants to go to Singapore, not Singapore, and he wants to go to the Philippines. He wants to go to Singapore and the Philippines. Let's practice. Does he want to go to Singapore and the Philippines? That's right, he wants to go to Singapore and the Philippines. Two Asian countries. This is also not correct.
This could be reading, watching comprehensible input videos like my ones, which are made to help you learn and acquire English.
I cannot say watching videos like my ones. I cannot use my ones. I cannot use possession before ones. I can say big ones and small ones, old ones and young ones, but I cannot say my ones. We cannot use possessive here. You have to say my videos or mine. So it's correct to say watching videos like mine or watching videos like my videos, but not watching videos like my ones. We cannot say this. So he says a good way to practice is by watching videos like his, not like his ones, but like his. So again, he says it's a good idea to practice your English by watching videos like his. Let's practice. Does he say it's a good idea to practice English by watching videos like his? That's right. He says it's a good idea to practice English by watching videos like his. Long sentence. This is also not correct.
You go to my website, it'll be in the description and the comments, and you can get the 3,000 list word there.
You can get the 300 list word there? List word? This is not correct. He means you can get the 300 word list there. 300 word functions as an adjective. There's no S, it goes before list. The 300 word list. Not the 300 list word, and not the 300 words list, but the 300 word list. You can get the 300 word list there, with the link. By clicking the link, you can get the 300 word list. Let's practice. How can you get the 300 word list? Can you get the 300 word list by clicking the link? That's right, you can get the 300 word list by clicking the link. This is also not correct.
I'm walking through the benches.
I'm walking through the benches. First, they're not benches. These are called picnic tables. So, can I say I'm walking through the picnic tables? Well, in the video, she's walking between two picnic tables. So we don't say through. She's walking between picnic tables, not through picnic tables and not through benches. She's walking between picnic tables. You can say he's walking through the forest, but she's walking between picnic tables. Let's practice. Is he walking through the forest? That's right, he's walking through the forest. And what about her? Is she walking between picnic tables? That's right, she's walking between picnic tables. Or I can use the article the to mean specific tables. She's walking between the picnic tables, the two in the picture. Let's practice. Is she walking between the picnic tables? That's right, she's walking between the picnic tables. And don't say this either.
Just boring classes where they just sit in a desk, have a piece of paper, and write stuff down.
They just sit in a desk? Sit in a desk? Wait, in a desk? On a desk or at a desk? What's the difference? Keep watching to find out and to practice more. So if I talk about a desk, I can use the following prepositions. In the desk, on the desk, at the desk, and by the desk. But they're all different. So let's take a closer look. If I talk about objects that are on the top surface of the desk, I say on. Example, she has a computer on her desk. There's a computer on her desk. Let's practice. Does she have a computer on her desk? That's right, she has a computer on her desk. Is there a computer on her desk? That's right, there's a computer on her desk. If I talk about things that are inside the drawers, then I say in. She keeps her pencils in her desk. They're in the drawers. They're inside the drawers, so I say in. She keeps her pencils in her desk. Let's practice. Does she keep her pencils in her desk? That's right, she keeps her pencils in her desk. And if you talk about a person who's sitting in the chair next to the desk, we say at. She's sitting at her desk. Or I can say she's working. She's working at her desk. She's not working on her desk. She's not working in her desk. She's working at her desk. Let's practice. Is she sitting at her desk? That's right, she's sitting at her desk. Is she working at her desk? That's right, she's working at her desk. And what about the trash can? What's the preposition that I use for the trash can? By. There's a trash can by her desk. Or I can say next to. There's a trash can next to her desk. Let's practice. Is there a trash can by her desk? That's right, there's a trash can by her desk. So remember, when you talk about a desk, you can use different prepositions. In the desk, on the desk, at the desk, and by the desk. Thank you for watching, and keep watching for more.
Welcome to English for Everyone. Today we're going to talk about prepositions. In bed, on the bed, in the chair, on the chair. Which one is correct? Let's take a closer look. Remember, when you talk about technology, use preposition on. On the computer, on the phone, on the radio, on TV, on Facebook, on Instagram. Let's look at some examples. He is busy. He is on the phone. Is he busy? Is he on the phone? Good job. She is on the computer. Are you on the computer or are you on the phone? Good job. Is she on the computer? Good job. He is watching cartoons on TV. What is he doing? Great job. And remember, when you talk about Facebook, we don't say, I have Facebook. We say, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Are you on Facebook? Great job. I'm on Instagram. Are you on Instagram? Great job. She's on the computer. She is sitting at the desk. Sit, not in the desk, not on the desk. At the desk. She is sitting at the desk. She is sitting at the table. Is she sitting at the desk? Great job. She's on the computer. She's at the desk. Is she sitting in the chair or in the chair? Which one is correct? Sit. Sit in the chair. Is she sitting in the chair? Good job. But the jacket is on the chair. Where is the jacket? Is the jacket on the chair? Great job. In bed, on the bed, which one is correct? Both are correct, but they are different. In bed, under the cover, under the blanket. She is in bed. She is reading a book in bed. Is she reading a book in bed? Very good. And remember, in bed. We don't say in the bed, just in bed. She is reading a book in bed. She is reading a book in bed. Is she reading a book in bed? Good job. On the bed, on the cover, on the blanket. Is she reading a book on the bed? Good job. And remember, on the bed. The is important. On the bed. Is she reading a book on the bed? Good job. He is sick. Should he stay in bed? Where are the clothes? Are the clothes on the bed? Great job. Is she already in bed? Very good. Where is the toy? Is the toy on the bed? Great job. Remember, when you talk about technology, use preposition on. On the phone, on the computer, on Facebook, on Instagram. Sit at the desk. Sit in the chair. but the jacket is on the chair. In bed, under the cover, on the bed, on the cover. Hi there, welcome to English for Everyone. My name's Lisa. Today I'm going to teach you the difference between at school and in school. Let's take a closer look. We say at school when we talk about location. Are they at the store? Are they at the park? Where are they? They are at school. At school. Remember, we don't say at the school, we say at school. At is not stressed, we pronounce it as et. The sound is more closed. And the letter T is a stop T. Put your tongue up and stop the air. At school. At school. At school. I'm not at school, but my kids are at school. They're at school. Are you at school? Where are you? Great job. We say in school when someone is a student. Someone is enrolled in school. He's in school. He is a student in college. And remember, we say in school. We don't say in the school, just in school. She has 2 kids. Her son is 11 years old. He is in school. He is a student in middle school. But her daughter is not in school. She is only 4 years old. She is not in school yet. She'll be in school next year. But right now, she's not a student. She's not in school yet. She's too young to be in school. I'm not in school, but I have 3 kids and they are in school. My son Benjamin is in high school. My daughter Sophia is in middle school. And my daughter Emily is in elementary school. My kids are in school. Are you in school? Great job. So remember, we say at school when we talk about location. They are at school. Are you at school? Great job. And we say in school when we talk about someone who is a student. He is in school. Are you in school? Great job. Thank you for watching, and if you want to learn English and practice speaking English, subscribe to our channel. Bye!